Hey everyone, welcome to Goody Reader Live. We are goodyreader.com. My name is Michael.
My name is Peter.
And Peter, what are we talking about today?
Today we got a bunch of topics. We're gonna go over the Barnes and Noble hack, which was pretty substantial. May not have affected you where you are in the world, but people that do reside in the U.S., great deal of people, they were affected by this pretty big. Onyx has released several new products. We're gonna go over Color E-Ink, of course. That's the up and coming. There have been a couple units that have already come out. What do you guys think of them? If you bought them, we'll give you our take on everything. And then we'll talk about some distraction free devices that you don't need to spend an arm and a leg to get, ones that don't say, your account has been raided, click here to collect your coins, etc. And then we will look over to the comments and see what you guys have to ask and what you guys have to say, and we'll hopefully get to all of the answers we possibly can. So that's the deal.
Yeah, so I guess like the big news is the Barnes and Noble hack. I mean, Nook is probably in at least in the US, like probably the second most popular e-reader.
Yes.
Primarily because Kobo doesn't really have much of a market share in the US. It's sold in Walmart, but they've really kind of scaled back from the Walmart agreement.
Right.
So basically, I guess like the way that it is set up now, that initially Kobo signed like a deal with Walmart to sell ebooks and audiobooks gift cards in basically all Walmart locations, and about 3 or 4 thousand locations Kobo was supposed to be sold in Walmart, but no one was trained. They didn't even have demo units like set up. So
Right.
it, they tried to build up traction in the US, but it really didn't work. Whereas Barnes and Noble Nook, I mean, it's in every single Barnes and Noble bookstore. I think they have thousands right now. Well, before the global pandemic.
Before all that went down, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know how many Barnes and Noble stores are open right now, but there are at least a few of them that are still open, but you can buy Nooks online. But I mean, Nooks have consistently been available in Barnes and Noble stores since like 2010, I think 2009,
Mm,
2010.
Probably around there, the Nook color and the original Nook with the little screen at the bottom. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I know that Kobo and Nook came out in the same year, and Kobo so yeah, I think it's like 2009, 2010ish. Anyways, so I guess like what happened is, if you have a Nook e-reader, a Nook app, for about the past 3 weeks, it's been down or intermittently down. What had happened is their Barnes and Noble had a ransomware attack. So basically, I guess what had happened
uh,
is they hackers got into like the database and then injected malware and basically told Barnes and Noble like pay us X amount of dollars. We don't
yeah,
actually know how much like they were ransoming them for, but Barnes and Noble refused to pay, and so what they had to do is they had to sort of restore a backup, like an older backup of everything. And the most important elements was getting cash registers working in stores,
right. To
was making it
the
able
actual
so
consumer level. Yeah,
yeah, so people could like buy things like online on bnn.com to like buy physical books, to buy this and that, right, to make
yeah.
purchases, because that's the lion's share of their revenues, like selling books,
Right.
selling like pillows and accessories, and all sorts of things on their website. So Nook was sort of left to last, and people are still emailing me like weeks later, like my library isn't populating, I can't read new books, pre-orders aren't working, my magazine and newspaper subscription continues to be billed, but I don't have access to any of that. and,
Right.
and almost like every single 2 or 3 days, Barnes and Noble releases like a tweet storm of, we're sorry that this happened, we're doing our best to like resolve the matter, but Nook services are pretty well intermittently down. But I think what's important is there's so many people trying to log into the Nook at once that's like bottlenecking their servers, like they just can't handle
Right.
that type of traffic, right? Because people want to read, in the last 3 weeks since Barnes and Noble Nook's been down, there's been so many new big books that have been released.
Yeah.
People want to read them, and they can't. So
And a lot of people are home right now because of the current situation. So people are naturally buying things online, buying books accessing their content from their devices and they just can't get in.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess that is like one of like the big issues sort of like right now.
Yeah, that affects again. It's mostly a regional thing because if you guys are watching, Barnes and Noble once was a huge major player that tried to expand internationally into select few markets, the UK, etc. But mostly they are just locked down to the states. They sell from the Barnes and Noble bookstore, but they're really not available anywhere else in the world. And even if you were to buy one, they don't really work anywhere else in the world. You need just so many USA services, USA credit cards, USA addresses. Just makes it a big kind of hassle. So that's why it has affected a great deal of people. But in the international scheme, it wasn't too much of a hit.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, is there an ETA for this sort of thing to be like resolved? Well, it's really not. Like there's
Unless they
very
pay the ransom,
yeah, exactly.
then we don't know. So
So the company
terrible.
that ransomed them actually publicly stated that they hacked Barnes and Noble, but they basically in an email to basically all of the Nook users, Barnes and Noble sort of outlined what happened to them, and they said like addresses,
Mm-hmm.
emails, past purchases, basically every information that they had, minus like including telephone numbers, but minus credit card information because they said that that was encrypted. Whether they're telling the truth or not sort of remains to be seen. I
Yeah,
know
you never
that
know.
a number of users commented on various posts that we did chronicling this, that they it, they noticed unauthorized purchases, and that sort of comes down to if your email and all that sort of billing information is out there. Most people use the same passwords on site to site to site.
Yeah, most people just have the automatic entry too, where you click the field and it just automatically generates, and you never know how really secure that is. Especially like if you say you're using the same email just for everything, it can get a little bit loose.
And most people
That's
use the
fair.
same
Yeah, good job.
passwords for everything.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Let's get on to something more internationally friendly to get everyone weighing in on the conversation. Color E Ink. Color E Ink has come out in its first wave. So we've seen five odd devices come out: the Pocketbook, the iReader, the iFlyTech, the Hisense, and then that's basically it. Hisense had two devices: the A5C and the A5 Pro CC. So this has kind of started the whole thing with color. Now, there were some problems with the earlier releases, all of these being early releases, where they looked kind of blue, and you really had to have the glow light on to have any sort of visibilities. Like the colors just wouldn't come through. They're obviously there when you have the glow light off, but unless you're shining a light on it, you're just kind of like it looks dull and washed out and fuzzy. So why don't you shed some light into why this kind of happened, Mike?
Okay, so just so you guys know that there's sort of two names for the color e-paper. The modern day versions, it's
Right.
called there's two different ways to pronounce it. Is like Kaleido, or some
Like
people
those
call.
old kaleidoscopes where you shine them at the light and you turn them and they're all kind of all the little shapes of the colors shine in your eye. Yeah, there's that way, or there's Kaleido, I guess, that you
Yeah, and then it's
yeah.
also called just print color.
That was the
So
official name. Yeah.
yeah,
That's
and
the one
then
we saw at the trade shows.
right, and then they
Yeah.
sort of have like Kaleido, which is more of a marketing friendly type of like way of saying
Name
it.
brand. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so the initial versions of color basically had a color filter array
Yep.
that was always on, impossible to turn off. So that's why color is sort of everywhere on all these devices, like Pocketbook Color, all the Chinese e-readers, and smartphones and so on. And so because the color filter array was always on, um, it sort of created a little bit of problems that the background okay, so black and white e-readers like Kindles, Barnes Noble, Nooks, Kobos, it's black text on like a gray screen.
That's it. Yeah.
With color, because the color is always on, that gray screen turned into almost gradients of gray. So it black text on sort of a gradient style screen did not pop as much as black text on a pure gray screen. So that was one of the big problems with it. sort of the second was that the color filter array was only possible of showing 4,000 colors at 100 ppi. So if
So
you're
so
look
to tell that to like the layman basically is that when you're looking at say a Kindle versus the Barnes and Noble color, the Kindle has the potential to show a really high resolution like on the Paperwhite or something because it's just two colors. It's either black or not black. Whereas on the color device, there's so much going on, the array system, there's so many layers in the way that it just ends up becoming a lower image just because of there's just so much going on and it can't go past 100 ppi even though for e-readers sky's the limit.
Right. So I guess the way that color works on e-readers is that black and white text will show at
No
300
hairs.
ppi and
Yeah.
color will appear at 100 ppi. So if you're
Yeah.
looking at the cover art of an ebook, that image will show up at
100.
100
Yeah.
ppi. But
And for you
as
guys
you're
that don't know, 100 ppi is really low. Like that's very very low. So when you have something 100 ppi like this and you're trying to blow it up to a 6-inch screen, you're stretching an image that isn't there. So that's why you get that fuzziness, that's why you get that low quality.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess one of
Those
the other
colors.
limitations of color e-ink is that the front light display always needed to be on in order to
Mm,
really see color.
yeah.
And some people just don't like having the front light display on. There's a
A little
myriad of
temperamental.
reasons, but you're basically with the current generation of color e-ink, you're sort of forced to have the color, the front light display on in order to basically read what's on the screen.
Right.
Certainly, if you're reading like a PDF or something that's very color centric. So,
And if you look at the iReader, actually, as you mentioned, the light had to be on. If you guys look at our coverage, we did about 5 odd videos of it on YouTube. When you had the light on, they were only using one set of LEDs, and the level of Kelvin was very high, which means that the higher the level of heat that the LED has, it means it's very blue. It wasn't even kind of like a white piece of paper or even kind of like a stone gray. It was just like blue. So when we had it on, everyone was saying, "Hey, it looks really blue," and we're like, "Okay, let's turn it off." We turned it off, and everyone's like, "Hey, we can't see it." So it's like, So there was really no middle ground with the first gen releases of color, and this is why we're saying this is the first wave because there was no winning. It was either you can't see the color or you had the color on and it was super super blue. And then there were two units that had flush screen and bezels. And this was the iFlyTech and the Hisense. The Hisense, naturally, was a phone. It was really, really small. So as you looked at it, you're like, it's really tiny. I can't do my reading on this. And the iFlyTech, although it looked beautiful, probably one of the best of the bunch, it had a flush screen and bezel. So that's even more stuff in the way of your eyes and the actual screen. You have your eyes, the outer screen protector, the glass, the capacitive layer, the color filter array, and then the reader screen. And you're just like, oh my gosh. So color's here, it's available. But the first kind of launch of it all wasn't a home run. It was just kind of like third base.
well, this might all change, Peter. E-Ink has told me exclusively that they are working on a second generation of E-Ink Kaleido that's going to be it's basically finished the R&D and construction process and it's undergoing mass production. It'll be released later this year, so sometime in November or December, and we'll see commercial products probably in Q1 or Q2 of 2021. So like at the latest, like sort of like April, May, sort of time period.
Right.
So what's new? What are they going to bring to the table? Well, this is pretty exciting. It's called E-Ink Kaleido 5100, and it will be possible to have it on non-glass based displays. So
Mm-hmm.
um, you don't have
So
to
note
have.
takers.
That's right. So you
Yeah.
don't need like a glass-based display in order for this to work. You can actually have like exposed e-paper. So this will be great for e-readers and e-notes. The refresh rate on
Whoa,
color will be as fast as black and white e-paper. There will be improved color and contrast performance and reduced graininess. E-Ink told me this as a statement. Our formal product launch has not yet occurred, so we are not publishing full specs at the moment. In general, in general, we are improving contrast and color saturation, also reduce graininess. We are also updating our front light solution, making improvements to the color filter array print pattern, and adjusting waveforms. So what does this all mean? Well, it'll be possible now that this tech will be perfect for 5.84 inch, so
Basically
picture
like a flip phone.
smartphones,
Yeah.
and it'll go all the way to 10.3 inches.
So
So
about here, this is what you're looking at. Anything between this size and this size has the potential to have color on it as of next year.
right. So I think that they're addressing a number of issues with this. They'll be able to display more than 4,000 colors. The resolution will be higher than 100 ppi.
Interesting.
The gray on the background, like the sort of the gradient, will
Yeah.
be issued, so that will be great. And really looks like the second generation of colors, e-readers, like commercial e-readers, like the Poke 2 color, the
Yeah.
Pocketbook color.
Right.
It looks like they'll probably be doing refreshes of that. But most importantly, this
Good
tech
point.
is designed for digital note-taking devices and finally being able to draw with color.
And as you mentioned, Pocketbook, Onyx, all of those guys have various sizes in their repertoire already. The Pocketbook has the 10.3 InkPad X. They have the InkPad Pro, and Onyx has basically everything from A to Z. So all of these guys have devices ready to go when color, or we don't know if color, but hopefully when color gets implemented to the second level, second generation, all these guys have ready-made devices. So instead of the Note that they have to remake into something else, they can just make the Note color. Pocketbook InkPad X, Pocketbook InkPad X color, etc. So
Yeah,
that's
I
going to
mean,
be the advantage of that.
it's pretty realistic to say that the companies that will invest in the second generation of
Yeah,
e-ink color will probably be the people that did the first generation. So
right.
Pocketbook, Onyx, iReader,
Oh, and
iFlyTech, and
actually,
Hisense
yeah.
phones.
Well, tangent off that, iReader, if you go to our YouTube channel, there we have coverage on it right now. iReader was the first to make the um, color e-reader in this generation. They're the first guys to release it. They actually just released another unit. They sent this to us. It is the Smart 2. It doesn't have color, but even companies like iReader that have note-taking devices with onboard audio and everything else like that, they're ready for color too because they did it first, and hopefully in the second gen next time this year they use already developed note-taking platforms like this. Just slap color on there and then you have color note-taking. And we know we can draw in color because we ourselves, in our Goody Reader Japan office, me and a couple of the guys went to a conference last year before the whole pandemic, and we drew on the 10.3 e-ink color note-taking device. And you use a stylus, much like any stylus, and you draw in red, you select green, and you select blue, and it shows up on the screen. And you can see that on our YouTube channel as one of our most highly viewed videos.
Yeah, color, being able to take notes in
That's
color.
crucial. That's
Yeah,
crucial.
that will help drive adoption. Certainly, like if Remarkable 3 start embraced color, if
That
any
would
of
be
the,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, like Supernote embraces color for their
Yeah.
digital note-taking devices. I mean, digital note-taking devices are probably the fastest growing segment in the e-ink space. It basically came out of nowhere like 3 or 4 years ago, and
Right. With the
everybody's
odd
involved in the
anomaly
space
of
now.
the Sony DPT. They kind of started everything back in like 2014, 2013, but that was just a one-off kind of shot in the dark, we think, because if you look at it, that device came out, the Sony DPT, it was like $1,000 US, and only available to like law firms, music studios, and like, some hospitals. And then they started lowering the price and almost cut it in half, and it's available to everybody. And that kind of spawned everyone else trying to get into the space. And now we have more devices than we can even mention.
Yeah, I mean, you only have to like look at like the last 4 months, 4 or 5 months of our review videos,
Yeah.
and to see how many new digital note-taking devices have like really hit the market.
And
And
if you look at it, this was actually the original stylus that was on the Sony DPT, and it's actually still being used today. I always hark on this stylus. I give it a hard time when we do the reviews over here because even if you buy the Onyx Books Max Lumi, you get this stylus. It has an eraser, it's all right, but at the same point, it's like it hasn't changed in almost 6 years now. But it's funny that we say that, it started with such a small niche. Now the amount of styluses and the amount of technology people are putting into digital stationery in the past couple years alone, this is only a handful, literally, of styluses we have. There's so many on the market now, and Lamy and iReader and Supernote, and everyone just seems to want to get their hands into it. So it's crazy how much it blew up in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that impressed me on eNotes and writing actually on a screen with a stylus,
Yeah.
being able to like do to-do lists or to freehand draw, for artists, character designers. There's a million use case scenarios on why you would buy a digital note-taking device. There's so much, it adds so much more functionality to a device. And it's not just the digital note-taking devices, but a lot of them can read ebooks. Some of them have Android, so you could actually install apps from, say, Google Play, or sideload in your own apps.
Right.
Some don't have any app support. They're just sort of like, as you buy this, this is what you're getting out of it. So it has more limited functionality, but it sort of hits all the different price points, from a 7.8-inch eNote for like $200 to a 13.3 eNote that's like $700 or $800. So depending on your price point and what you're looking at of a device, they sort of hit all the different sort of price points and screen sizes these days. Whereas when they first sort of came out, there was only 10.3 and 13.3, either reading A4 size documents or A5 size documents, like a sheet of 8.5, 11 piece of paper, or a little bit smaller than that. But now, as the technology matured, it's all over the place now, which is great for consumers because there's more choice.
I was going to say that there's more choice, and no one outlines this better than Onyx. Onyx basically is one of the only company that occupies devices from 6-inch all the way up to 13.3 and everything in between, 9.7, 7.8, 6.8. They have everything that they possibly can offer everybody, and it's all the way down to the fact that even if you buy the Poke, which is a 6-inch e-reader, it has X mode, and it's running quad core processing, and it's running full Android, and it's just, there's so much capabilities with it. And to add color on all this, that we hope in the future would be like phenomenal, because just in the comment feed right now, a lot of people are just saying, and we'll get to that in a bit, but everyone's just saying, like, when's there going to be a mainstream color device, when's color coming, you know what I mean? So people just can't seem to wait long enough.
Yeah, so let's talk about Onyx, because they've basically refreshed their entire product line. And in the past 3 months, it's really hard to read anything else but a new Onyx book product. So what have they
right there for a sec, Mike? We're getting a lot of reports saying they can barely hear me. If you want to up my volume, if that would be great.
I think you have to do that.
Oh, okay.
So click on microphone and audio settings.
There's even a nice gentleman here named Peter, and he says, I can barely hear Peter. Okay. How's this, everybody? Can I have one person? Is that better, Mike?
That sounds like louder to me.
Can I have one person on the comment feed say that this is good? Anybody? There's a bunch of people there. Okay. Onyx. I hope this is good, everybody. Sorry about the interruption. Yes, continue, Michael.
So Onyx has refreshed their entire product line. So Poke 3, Nova 3,
basically Poke
Note
2
3.
to Poke 3, Note 2 to Note 3, Nova 2 to Nova 3, and then the Max 3 to the Max Lumi. So, much better, we all say on the comment feed. Nice. Whoa, it was like 5 comments that came in. We're going to get to you guys in a second. Wow, I love the interaction. This is great.
And then they have a new SKU, the Note Air, which is probably our both of our favorite e-readers.
That is honestly, this thing came out of nowhere by Onyx, and what I mean is that every time Onyx kind of came out with a new device, it was the same shell as the previous device, the Note, and then the Note Pro, and then the Note 1, 2, 3. It's all the same shell. This is cool. This is made out of a complete aluminum block. It has some orange stylized kind of embossed lines. It's using two-tone colors on the front and the back, and it's a glass screen. It's such a nice piece. And like the stylus has also changed. It was very, very different out of Onyx's line, to the point that everything about it was different. The stylus that they've used, that I mentioned earlier in the show here, for the past 6 years almost, has been changed to a very, very high quality pinpoint nib stylus. It was such a breath of fresh air, all pun intended. I've been using that all week. I'll be here all week. I'm just kidding. And yeah, such a breath of fresh air. And it's so refreshing to see a device like that come out of Onyx. And no discredit to Onyx. They make some of the best, if not the best overall line of stuff. Thanks for the thumbs up on my screen. But yeah, the Air was just like, it was so cool. And we had a lot of people hate on us. Michael's team and my team, we all came together, and we kind of, elephant in the room was that it's compared against the Remarkable. Looks like Remarkable, does what the Remarkable can do. It even snaps to the side. Even a lot of people were really harking on the fact that they said it was distraction free on the Remarkable by that. And then to which we said, well, if you just uninstall everything on the Air, it's distraction free as much as the Remarkable, and you're still left with a better product. So, I mean, it was just kind of, and this isn't opinionated. This is like pound for pound, hardcore written specs. So it was just the Air kind of just dominated. It was very interesting to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's more interest in the Air than any other Onyx product that was released this year.
Yeah.
Just because it has an all new design. It has, a name branded Qualcomm Snapdragon processor. It's light. It has lots of RAM. It's more powerful. I mean, the Note 3 spec for spec has a little bit better specs.
We'll get to that.
But what I like about the Air is that, unlike any other product, the LED front lit display and the color temperature LED lights, instead of being on the bottom like almost every single other e-reader out there, Onyx put them on the sides, and they have more LED lights than any other e-note that's ever been released.
Right. Usually you'll have to like angle your eye like this, and you can barely see the LEDs at the bottom, and they're usually only on one side. And to say the side, it's a matter of perspective, because this is an asymmetrical design, but it can also be symmetrical if you're holding it like this, and the logo is actually in line with it being landscape. So it helps when you're drawing notes and when you're doing split screen. You can do split screen on this device and actually side by side the entire experience. So to have them on opposing sides, there's lights on both sides effectively. There's lights here and there's lights here, and they shine into the screen, and it's fantastic.
Right. So Onyx, pretty well, the Note Air has the most LED lights, both a combination of amber and white LED lights. So it has 36 LED lights total. So 18 white and 18 amber. And I mean, when front lit displays first came out, you had some that basically had them at the top projecting light downwards, and then most of them have light at the bottom projecting light upwards.
Right.
And so when you have either them top down or bottom up, it sort of doesn't illuminate the total screen. With 6 inches they do. So like your Kindle Paperwhite, perfectly even light distribution, because like the height, the width, the body ratio is smaller, so light has fewer ways to travel upward. But when you start looking at 10.3 or the Onyx Book Max Lumi, which has LED lights, there's so much more light has to travel so much more upwards, so you need to sort of
much more screen to fill.
Right, so you have to pack in more and more LED lights, and so you sort of run into a situation where if you want to do them at the bottom and project light outwards, there's really no more room to pack in both white and amber LED lights. And if you guys aren't aware, amber LED lights is basically the candle light effect, where the screen turns into like various degrees of like orange.
Here, let's give everyone just a little peek at what we're talking about here. How's that? Does that line up? Right there. There we go. Yeah, so this is the amber LEDs. So basically, when it's brown or tan or orange, it's the one set of LEDs running. And if you were to swipe the top down, you can actually turn that off and then turn it to blue. And as you can see, the corners used to have big problems with the light reaching the corners and reaching other sides of the screen. But because they have them on both sides now, there's no more issues with light. And this is very important with flush screen and bezels so you don't get overexposed areas. So basically there's a lot of lights. They're on both sides and it looks great.
So I think that the reason why a lot of these e-notes that are using both white and amber LED lights is that they are using glass-based displays, so it's containing the light underneath the layer of glass. So there's less gray splotches. I noticed like sort of like a few years ago, if you had like a Kobo or a Nook or something like that, there was sort of areas along the sides of the bezel that had like gray splotches because like
or
either
too much light.
That's right. So it wasn't like the light didn't have enough nits to be able to like have even light distribution, so there was no splotchiness area. So I wonder if people are looking at what Onyx did by putting LED lights on the sides of it for larger screen displays, if that will prompt other manufacturers that are also doing 10.3-inch devices with lights to put them on the sides instead of the bottom at the top, because you can just simply fit more lights in. And so if you are looking at a PDF and editing it in landscape mode or something like that, there's just like more screen to be able to do that.
And I mean, LEDs are, and I know we're talking about, making millions, if not multiple millions of production run models when it comes to these companies selling things, but LEDs are a very cheap component. They're, to say a dime a dozen is an understatement. They're very, very cheap, and they come in strips. They can be very small. They don't burn very hot. It should be something that they should implement now. It should just be done now, because a lot of people don't want to buy a $400 device and see that there's too much light from the bottom or not enough from the top or whatever the case may be. It just needs to be good.
All right, so to finish off the Onyx segment, they've refreshed so many devices, and they have like 6, I think. So what are your 2 favorites? Like if I were to say, Peter, I'm looking for a digital note-taking device from Onyx, that has Google Play, that has Android 10, that has like digital and analog audio, fast processor, everything. What were the 2 products would you recommend to the users and the people watching this?
Air, for sure. Air was very refreshing, very nice to see that. If you're comparing it against other note-taking devices in general, it's fantastic. The pen itself is nice. It has a little pinpoint nib rather than a very blunt nib that even actually, we have a lot of examples here. Even the Lamy, which is a very nice pen, the Lamy uses a very, very blunt nib. So your level of accuracy when it comes to super fine detail is not as good. The Note Air pen, although it doesn't have a button or an eraser on it, it's very good. It's very pinpoint, it's very accurate. You can draw some pretty nice schematics. The device is also very good. I mean, if you want to live the whole distraction-free lifestyle, don't worry about the Onyx Books Air, because you don't have to use any of the apps that are on there. In fact, you can uninstall most of the apps that are on there and just turn the Wi-Fi off, and then you're left with a fantastic device. Also, and I got it here just to kind of show everyone. It's really big. The Max Lumi. And why I would say this is so good is because, yes, you have to spend money on it. It's very expensive. But once you do...
Yeah, it's like $859.
Right. But once you do, it does everything. It even acts as a secondary monitor from a USB cable. You know what? You don't even have to have it plugged in. The Dazzling, for example...
You mean HDMI?
HDMI, sorry, yeah. The Dazzling, for example, you need to plug in the HDMI and you need to plug in a power source. This, you can literally walk around with an HDMI cable, plug this into your phone, other monitors, etc. And this will have secondary monitor capabilities under its own battery power. Yes, it doesn't last very long when you're doing that because you have a secondary monitor plugged into it. But it is kind of like the most fully loaded luxury model of all e-readers on the market. There aren't many 13.3s out there. There's the Sony and the 2 variations of the Sony hardware, and pretty much anything else would either be old, outdated, or just not available anymore. So really, it's just Onyx. That's the Max and the Max Lumi. Those would be the two I'd recommend. The reason I'm not recommending the lower ones for no particular reason, it's just gun to my head if I had to choose two. The Poke
Yeah.
is great, the Nova's great. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It just comes down to how much screen size you need. If you want something
Yeah.
that's small and portable, you buy the Poke. Stick it in your pocket.
The I think one of the benefits of the Lumi is that it's the first 13.3-inch with front light. There's no other 13.3-inch digital note-taking device that has like a front lit display,
Right.
and there's not a whole lot of them on the market.
No,
Basically, it's like if you want to buy a one, it's like Fujitsu Quaderno, Sony
which
digital
which is a
paper.
great unit, but that's all they can do is just take notes. So you're spending roughly the same amount of money for just notes versus notes and Google Play and music and audio and audiobooks and watching videos and Facebook and everything else you can do.
Okay, is there any questions on the chat that people want us to answer?
Very many. I'm going to scroll back here. I will try to get to everybody here, but everyone is saying the volume of Peter is low, and we got that all taken care of. People are asking, why are e-readers so expensive? I'll start a couple things off by saying e-readers are not like smartphones. If you look at how many smartphones there are in the world, there are thousands, if not tens of thousands, of different brands and sub brands and manufacturers. The OEM, original equipment manufacturer, parts on smartphones are very, very low. It's like a race to the bottom. You can make smartphones for as low as $20 to $50 retail availability in emerging markets, all the way up to thousands of dollars, like, you know, the iPhones and stuff like that. E-readers are not like that. E-readers are very niche. There's a lot more tech that goes into them. There's a lot more money that goes into creating an e-ink panel. And if you've ever looked at our previous videos, if you turn an e-ink panel like this on its edge, you almost can't see it. It's incredibly thin. Aside from the ribbon cable that plugs into the circuit board, the ink panel itself is paper thin. There's a lot of tech that go into it. So to answer your question, there's more money that goes into the R&D and the technical development of e-readers than there are in just dime a dozen smartphones. So if you wanted
Yeah,
to expand on that
I
a little.
would probably say that 30 to 40% of the overall cost of manufacturing an e-reader is the panel, because there's only like basically two factories in the world that could
Right,
actually make e-ink panels. I
right.
believe like one's in Taiwan and there's like one in China, and e-ink said that they're opening up a second factory just to specialize like in color
Yeah,
displays, just to ramp up production. So
right.
unlike, smartphones, like,
They're made
everybody,
everywhere.
yeah,
Everywhere.
everyone makes smartphones. Like
Yeah,
making the LCD display ridiculously cheap,
yeah.
easy.
Easy.
You could like have a cheap all winner processor or an expensive flagship Qualcomm Snapdragon,
Yeah,
top of the line. You could like buy cheap RAM or you can buy expensive RAM. With e-readers, there's really little to no choice for the manufacturers or the people constructing e-readers to use different RAM, different processors. Like
that's
if you
right.
want an e-reader with fast refresh rate, you have to have a Freescale processor. And there's only like one of them for like a single core and one of them for a dual core. There's literally no options that has e-ink Regal waveform controllers
Right.
built into it. So name brand processors for e-readers, expensive. The screen itself, expensive. If you have a glass space layer, also expensive. So e-readers are just expensive just because the tech that goes into it, it's just more expensive to make, and there's little to no factories that are actually constructing the e-readers. Foxconn for Amazon
Yeah.
and another Chinese factory basically for everyone else, and then Taiwan. So
That
like basic,
answers,
yeah.
hopefully. Yeah, that hopefully that answers is that there's more people doing smartphones than e-readers. We have another one that says from Puya 130, any ideas when there will be a larger size mainstream color e-reader? We mentioned that earlier on in the video, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I probably see it as the first generation of color e-paper was pretty well, as we've seen it, the pocketbook color, a bunch of Chinese e-readers,
Yeah,
Onyx, the Onyx Poke 2 color, which was on sale for a day and got sold out. It remains to be seen if we'll see, anyone else offering this in the next month or so. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyways, with the second generation of e-ink Kaleido, e-ink has said that it's done. They're undergoing mass production pretty well in a month or two, and it's designed exclusively for large screen e-readers. So it could be either standalone e-readers ranging from 5-inch screens all the way to large devices for 10.3-inch displays. So basically, first generation color e-readers,
Yeah.
sort of lower colors, 4,000 colors, 100 ppi, pretty limiting overall, and that's why we only really saw 6-inch e-readers
That
and
was 6-inch
5-inch
max.
phones.
That was it. Yeah, they couldn't
Yeah.
go beyond that in the first run.
Right. So with the second generation color e-paper, just more colors, higher PPI, and it's designed for both small and 10.3-inch screens and everywhere in between. So I think probably from anywhere between January of 2021 to about like June 2021 is when we'll start seeing the first releases of the second generation color e-paper.
And a carry on of that, someone just asked a question. So what? $1,000 for a 10.3 color note? I'm assuming he
No,
means color.
the
Yeah,
color. So what we've seen is, I mean, we only have the first generation to go off of. What
that's all of our
the
frame of
pocketbook?
reference. Yeah,
What the pocketbook color was like $200,
yeah.
you know, and it's like most of their other 6-inch non-color e-readers were like anywhere between 159 and 179. So adding color added like a 20 or $30 increase. Same with like all of the the Hisense phones. There wasn't a huge price disparity amongst color and non-color. They were basically just like color added an extra 10 to 20 to $30 price. So I don't really see color adding to the costs where you're gonna have to pay
No,
$400 or $500 extra.
exactly. It's not going
I
to double the cost of your device. That's not
No,
what we're living in right now. No.
like the Poke 2. Okay, so let me just look at this right now. So I'm looking at the Poke 3.
Should I take a break and endorse this coffee I'm drinking?
Sure.
No, they didn't pay us. I'm not going to do that.
It's like then we have to add sponsor video
It
to
is
like the
good
price.
though. Let me see if I can block it as I drink it. And there we go. Like in the film industry, you always have to face the label away from the camera. Oh, Justin says, "Whoo, I hope so."
Okay, so the Poke 3 retailed for $189 US.
Yeah. And the pocketbook color is 200, so that gives you an idea right there that the difference between having color and not having color is only a couple bucks.
Right, and so to give you a contrast, the Onyx Book Poke 2 color was
that limited run they did. Yeah, that's right. They had a limited run of the Poke 2 color that was only in a very select market for a very, very short period of time. Didn't touch any of our operations at all.
I can't really find the price on the Poke 2 color.
I'm going to let you do that, and you do a little hands up when you want to go. I'm going to answer another question.
Okay, it was $299. So the
go.
Poke 3 was $189, and the Poke 2 color was $299. So it added a little bit of cost, I think, just because it was Onyx's like first color like e-reader.
Yeah.
But that is the exception and not the norm. From everything that I've understood, color didn't really add a very much surcharge. So I see like on a second generation, it could range anywhere between like $50 to $100 extra, but not like $300 or $400 extra.
Right. To answer your question, Deckard, you're saying that e-ink is more difficult to manufacture compared to LED touchscreens? ? Why are e-ink readers more expensive than normal tablets? Again, because everyone and their mom makes tablets. I mean, you look at India, you look at Thailand, you look at just basically any market that makes components, they have a tablet. Some tablets are $29. Amazon tablets go as low as $29, $30 on sale. You can make a tablet, you can white label a tablet, you can make a base model cookie cutter black slate tablet for nothing. To make an e-reader, back to what Mike said, there's factories that you barely count on one hand that have their hands making e-ink technology. So if you want to make e-readers, you only have two guys to deal with. When you want to make tablets, there's millions of people. There's already developed things. You can just be like, I want this one, slap a label on it, it's mine.
Yeah, there's
That's why it's so
literally
easy.
like 150. Okay, so like I
Not too
said,
long
to
on
make
this.
an e-reader in Taiwan and China, there's like 3 factories that make e-readers.
Yeah,
There's hundreds of other factories like
it's
in
you can't.
Taiwan and
Yeah, you can't
China
even count.
that make like smartphones or tablets. And
You
so
can't even count.
it's basically like, due to the number of tablets being made, it just drives down the cost of like
That's race to the bottom.
of
Yeah,
everything, like from the LCD panel. There's factories competing against each other for people's business. You know, if Amazon wants to make like a new Fire tablet and wants to shop it around from Foxconn to someone else, everyone's gonna fall over themselves for like $1 million MOQ, like for, you know, the motherboard, the RAM, the
yeah,
display,
yeah.
you know, one factory doesn't make everything. They outsource the battery to this company,
Oh, here it is.
the RAM to this company, the CPU to another company. And there's all
Right.
these other companies making individual components, and they're all competing against each other, which is driving down the prices of components. Whereas with e-readers, it's still super fringe. I mean, there's not a lot of people making e-readers. Like in the States, who are your options? Nook, Kindle, and Kobo. And
That's it.
that's the same with Canada.
Yeah.
In Europe, what, like Pocketbook?
Tolino.
Yeah, Tolino in Germany.
Yeah.
That's, and you know, a lot of other ones have come and gone, and they're you know, they're not available anymore.
Not
There's
many
just,
out there.
and then the vast majority of e-readers are out of China. So
That's
like
right.
Boyu Lightbook, Onyx, Supernote, like everyone's based like
Everyone's
theirs.
based in China. Yeah.
So
We actually got a $2.79 donation from Django Ferreira Mong. I'm sorry if I couldn't say that properly. And he is asking, is the magnet on the Note Air weak? Falls off the device? Little bit. I will show you right now. If you grab the pen and you get the note, you put it on the side. Yes, it does stay on there, but it does wiggle a little bit, and you can see it fell off right there. Now, if you have it with the case and the stylus loop, it's not going anywhere. But as it is, you can see that if you wiggle it intensely, it'll fall off. You
but that's the
that
same with like everything. The Remarkable 2,
Remarkable 2 is a little bit stronger. If I put it on there at the top, it doesn't really fall off under that same intensity.
Oh.
And the Remarkable 2, you can actually snap the pen to anywhere on the device. And this isn't even a Remarkable 2 pen. So if that is enough of a reason for you to make the change to the Remarkable, yes, you can do that. And the reason it doesn't snap to the Air is because the Air is made out of aluminum, and aluminum is a non-ferrous metal, meaning that it's not magnetic. It won't rust, it won't corrode, etc. So I hope that answers your question, Django, and I do really appreciate, we very much appreciate the donation. So thank you very much. That's very nice. I actually have a question that Mike would probably be more suited to answer. Any word, Neville, sorry, again, pronunciation. Any word on the next NXT next paper release date?
Okay, so
not too long on this. I see you're getting enthused. Just kind of short form.
Okay, so basically TCL, the company that you pretty well see 4K TVs on Amazon for like $3.99. You know, they sort of like have like bargain things. They want to compete with e-ink with something that's called like TSL next paper, and they announced this, I think, like in September. It's basically like not true e-ink, but it does have like advantages that it's easier to make and manufacture. There's really no release date. Like basically they announced the tech on the TCL event on September 3rd, and there's literally been no information since then. They, at the same time, they announced 2 tablets which are basically available in a lot of places. But for this, it remains to be seen. For those of you that are on that don't know a lot about this, I'll read a little bit about what I wrote. The company's proprietary next paper display technology is the artistic combination of screen and paper, and it was basically a byproduct of 2 years worth of product research and 11 patents for eye protection. It basically provides a full HD definition display. Okay, basically it comes down to it's going to be like a monochrome display. So if you want to know what a monochrome display is, it's basically it has no backlight. It doesn't have any front light. It totally depends on your environmental conditions. So you have to have, if you want to read outdoors, has to be light outside. If you want to read indoors, it needs light. I would suggest if you want to know more about monochrome technology, check out a review of the Hisense Q5 tablet.
That's good, because a question just came in about that and says, any news on the Hisense Q5 tablet, and how does our LCD compare to e-ink in terms of ease of the eyes? I will start that because me and the team did have personal time with the Q5. The Q5 is great. It's like looking at one of those old school calculator screens where the kind of background is the silver metallic, and as things pop up on the screen, it's raised right in your face. It looks so clean. It looks so crisp. It's very, very, very good. Now, the downside is you can't view it in the dark. And when you shine light on it, it shape shifts. It's like when you hold it like this, it's purple, and you hold it like this, it gets like, you know, golds and coppers sprawled across the screen. So it is very, very much an ambient light device, which means if you're in your room, lights all around you, you're using it, that's great. If you have to go outside and the light's shining into it, you're just like, eh. If you have to like get your device and shine your phone light on it, which is defeating the purpose of this kind of setup, you have to kind of go through extreme lengths.
Totally.
Unfortunately, no, it's not that great. The technology involved is very, very good, and it looks fantastic. There's a lot of shortfalls, and that's what actually led the device to not only becoming available so quick, but becoming almost discontinued so quick. There's some resellers you can get it from, but man, did that come and go quick. Right when we were wrapping our review, they became unavailable. So we
reviewed it, and then we're like, you know, we want to buy a few to send them to like various teams. Like I wanted one, and it was like, oh, it's been discontinued already. Like they had, I guess, probably made like a few hundred, and once they were sold out, they just sold them out.
They were gone.
There's no news on like a Q10 or if Hisense has made like a second generation thing. They said by the end of the year they'll release a new one. Like that's what they told us when they discontinued the first generation one. They said that we're making a second generation one, but there's no release date. So for the next paper, no date on like when the first product will be available, whether Hisense is using that for a commercial product. Basically, TCL, I don't think will release their own device with next paper. They're going to basically license it out to other companies that want to use it, similar to e-ink. They make the screens, they make the front lights, they, you know, add all the software and everything, but they don't actually sell e-readers themselves. They just license the technology out to other companies.
And this brings to another question. What about the Lamy pen? Does the button work? And we have the Lamy pen right here. And just like what Michael was saying, Lamy doesn't make, you know, the Lamy Note X5 or whatever. They don't make any device themselves.
They're a digital stationery company. And they make actually like they make some of the best pens in the world. Like
that's right. This pen is coveted because it has very good cross compatibility, which means doesn't matter if you're using an iReader or you're using a Supernote or you're using whatever, it's going to work on it. Now, the actual question is, does the button for the eraser actually work? It does, but not on everything. We will do our best to send this over to our testing team at the office to verify, you know, like, yes, it does work on this, button does not work on this. For example, we know that the button itself does nothing on the Boyu, but it does take notes on the Boyu. So it's kind of like that. Because it is so universal, it's not possible for it to just blanket work on absolutely everything. There's going to be a couple things that always stand in the way. So that's why it's good that you asked that.
Does the stock Boyu pen that comes with the Lightbook, does it have a button on the side?
It does. It does have an eraser button, and
Okay.
it does work. Yeah, this is the basically the pen that we've shown a couple times in the show. It works on everything almost.
Okay.
Everyone uses that pen. Yeah, so the Lamy pen does work on most things, but the button might not. Someone said, "Why didn't you dress up for Halloween?" That's on you, Michael, because it's still Halloween in Canada. It's actually November 1st right now in Japan. So I'm you missed me. I dressed up as a ghost.
Well, I
So
gave candy out to kids that like I live
oh,
in a
did you?
condo, so
Mm,
there's like a lot of small families here, and I gave out some like pink elephant popcorn that I
oh,
got from
nice.
like imported from like Europe to here because you can't actually buy it in Canada. So
Did you do the
uh,
thing where you left all the candy outside your door and you put it in a bucket, hoping that people will just take a few and not take the whole bucket, or you
no,
actually
I
went?
just gave it out to like two groups of kids that came by.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's very nice of you then. Very
But yeah,
charitable.
I didn't dress up for Halloween this year. I
Yeah.
grew up
That's
okay,
okay.
so if I did dress up, it was dressed up as the least coherent tech analyst in e-readers.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, you pulled it off. So we have another one here that says, so is the color shift in Q5 because of the shiny screen? It's just because of the R LCD inherent natures of R. R is reflectivity. It has a lot of reflective nature. So yes, as you tilt it and as you expose it to different light sources, the sun, your light, your overhead light, just the ambient light, maybe on a cloudy day, it's going to look different. And again, if you're just joining us, there won't be any light coming from the device, so it's basically just you have to use it during the day. It's like a Game Boy.
Yeah, it's like no light at all. No backlight, no light, front light, no light at all. And that's like sort of the thing behind the Q5, the R LCD. So it's basically an LCD screen minus the light.
That's right.
And that's what basically behind like TCL's next paper too. So there's more of a movement for these types of screens, but as like the only commercially viable one, it came and went, and we haven't really seen anything since. So
Right.
whether we'll see a second wave, I don't know. I mean, it seems like these monochrome displays are even more fringe than e-ink.
That I would say so. That e-ink, I mean, if you compare those two, obviously, if you compare smartphones to e-ink, smartphone is just way more vastly, accessible. But our reflectivity sources, I mean, we've seen, Miracels and Kyobos and stuff, but they're mostly just like one-off hits that just come and go. And the Q5 is evident of that. It came and went so quickly. We're almost approaching an hour here. We have actually a lot of questions, so we're gonna try to get to couple more here. Someone said, "What is the note-taking experience like on the air?" It is good, but recently, if you guys have just been kind of getting into e-ink, almost everybody uses glass screens, and this will be a discussion for another Goody Reader Live because a glass screen is very glidey. It's very, very slippery, so it's like you're drawing on a window. Whereas devices like the Sony and the Supernote, they do subtle things to make it more sticky and have more grit. The Note Air is good. It's very pinpoint, but it is kind of slippery. It's very much like you're using the
But I
Apple
mean,
Pen. You know.
basically, like all the e-notes that came out in 2020
Oh,
have
they're
glass-based
oh
screen.
man, dude,
Remarkable
they're all glass.
2,
Yeah,
like anything from like it's basically anything that came out this year for
yeah.
digital note-taking devices, all glass-based
And that's
screens.
funny because the Remarkable One that came out way back when is actually better to write on than the
Yeah,
new
like
one. It
3 or 4
actually
years
is.
ago.
It is. It has more grit, and nothing is more evident than the Sony DPT. The Sony pens wear down so quick, but the mix between a non-glass based screen and a graphite nib, still to this day, it's one of the best note-taking experiences, and that's evident with Quirk Logic and Fujitsu that actually bought the Sony hardware and is making 2020 models of an older model because the hardware is that good. But again, that's a discussion maybe for next week.
Word.
Yeah, we have there's a lot more questions that came in, but we're approaching an hour, so
It's
I guess
okay.
we'll
We'll
see.
answer them.
Is lighting the e-ink displays expensive compared to the cost of the e-ink display? Not necessarily. As we said earlier, lighting is pretty cheap. It's just about how you position it on the screen.
Yeah, with e-readers, they have LED lights that are on the bottom of the bezel and project light upwards. They're not backlit screens. Backlit
Hmm.
screens like on smartphones and tablets so much more easier because to do because
That's
it's
right.
emitting from behind the screen. Whereas with e-ink, it's like there's physical LED lights along the bezel that you could actually see if you tilt it that
That's
project light
right.
upwards, and those are more expensive than a traditional backlit display. So that's one of the reasons why e-readers cost a little bit more.
Right. Mike, this is for you and the news team over there. Is the new Paperwhite happening this year, or was the color options released in June the refresh for the year?
Um, so Amazon's usually like on like cycles.
Hmm.
I think like every 3 years, if I remember, they refresh like a unit. So the Oasis and the entry level Kindle are relatively new, but the Paperwhite is due for a refresh. But I believe that due to COVID and everything like that, so from everything that I heard, the Paperwhite 5 was supposed to be released this year, but
Right.
there's really like no days that Amazon could announce this. It's like, Halloween. Amazon
Black
gives a
Friday,
week long
but yeah.
Amazon gives a week long vacation at the end of November.
Right.
And then you have like Remembrance Day, Black Friday, you have like so many days. It's almost like Apple's event. They only had like basically one day in November that they could actually like announce whatever they're gonna announce, Apple Silicon and all
Right.
that type of stuff.
Yeah, so there wasn't a lot of opportunity, especially given the current climate of everything that
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Amazon was basically sold out of the Kindle Oasis many times
You
this year
saw
due
that.
to COVID. And
Yeah,
so
we had to kind of pull strings to get as much stock as we possibly could because there was so many things in the way. We looked at the American channels and it's like we'll
sold
ship
out for three
sometime in like
months.
yeah, we'll ship sometime in like 30 to 90 days. And then I was like, okay, let's look at the Canadian side. And we looked at that and we contacted our guys and there's like, yeah, there's like a 3 month delay. And we're like, oh my gosh. And then we checked on a consumer level, like on amazon.ca, and it said Prime. And then you look below, 3 months delay. And you're like, wow. And speaking of the Amazon Kindle Paperwhite, we might do one of these every single week. Free Paperwhite case for the first person to comment saying, I want this. I'm not joking. You will get this case absolutely for free. We'll chuck it in the post right after this show. It is a free Kindle Paperwhite case, and you get a screen protector with a little cloth. Flash contest, guys, and it runs for the next 17 seconds. No, I'm just kidding. But you can, if first person I see in the comments, even after we're done saying this, gets this free Kindle Paperwhite case.
And
Continue,
that's
Michael.
for what model?
Oh, yes, this is for the Kindle Paperwhite 1, 2, and 3. It will not work on the latest one. It's a little bit different, a little bit thinner. But Kindle Paperwhite 1, 2, and 3, if you guys have this, first person to say, I want this case, literally right now, we'll get this. So we'll just kind of keep that on standby here.
Cool. Any other
Yeah.
questions?
So we got Kindle Paperwhite, blah, blah, blah. We have a question asking about how to disable. Oh, Takuro, you just got it. Oh, wait, no, you said I do not want this. Never mind. You did not get it. I'm sorry, unless you want it, but no. There we go. Aman Sagar, congratulations, Aman. You got this. You said I need it. Please, here, we'll send you a little link right now. store@goodereader.com. Please email us right there, right now with your address, and we will send this to you. Congratulations. Yay. Can we put a little congratulatory animation on the screen, like a little balloon or something? Can we do? Oh, we have a cracker from Michael. I'm going to put a heart. There we go. Congratulations, you won. And maybe stay tuned every single week where we might do a little flash contest. So you got to watch because you never know when they're coming. Yes, we have a question asking, can you disable the animations on the Hisense A5 under developer options? This we actually do not know. We can follow up with you, Takuro, and contact Hisense because we are a distributor of theirs and we can maybe find out. But sorry, off the top of my head, we do not know that. So I guess that might be. Oh, Michael, will there be a front light on the TCL?
No. It sort of defeats the
No.
purpose.
And
yeah, it's a
yeah.
monochrome display. So
Yeah.
the big draw about it is that there's no light at all. And so that means that it's supposed to be an LCD screen that's actually easy on the eyes. So
That's the whole point. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean the whole point is something between Next Paper and e-ink, and things like that in general, is that there's no backlight shining in your eyes, and that pretty well not just appeals to people who need glasses or to read, or find themselves getting eye strain when looking at their iPad for too long,
Mm,
or their
mm.
computer or their laptop. Some people have glaucoma. A lot of people have like vision disorders, neurological issues where they can't look at bright white things anymore. And so that's why people buy e-ink devices like Dazzling for a secondary monitor that they use for a primary monitor, or they have an e-reader to read their ebooks on instead of just like reading on their iPad or their laptop and
Right.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's obviously real books, but with e-readers, you could just jack the font up larger to read it instead of paying the extra money to buy large print editions of books. And large print editions, not every book that you want to read actually has a large print edition.
There you go. We have another question that says, putting a screen protector on the Q5, will that prevent the color shift? It does a little bit. If you put a matte screen protector on there, it will. But matte, what it has is even more. Our LCD is reflective LCD. So when you put matte, which is inherently non-reflective, that's why people put matte screen protectors on their smartphone so it won't be reflective. It messes things up, and we have tried it. It's like you're canceling it out, but it just ends up looking a little bit washed out. And remember, the point of all these technologies is to put less stuff in front of between your eyes and the actual viewable surface, and that's why the Q5 looks so good, because it's kind of right up against your eyes. Putting something in the way reduces your experience, so it does cut down on the color shift, but it's just better to not kind of put that on there. It's like a note-taking device. People put screen protectors on their note-taking devices. Yes, it helps with the safety of it. If you drop something on it, it protects the screen, but it removes some of the overall feeling on the screen when you use the pen on it. So putting something in the way. Yes, so Peter Yannick agrees and says, I don't like front lights on e-ink. I like the real paper experience. That's right there. That's very true. That's why people like e-ink, because you don't have to have the glow light on. You can just turn it off. That seems to be all the questions we have that actually have a question mark. There's just other comments, but yeah. Someone said, what about the e-reader white color for comics and manga? No e-readers currently are truly white backgrounds. Like, you'll never see an actual, here's a piece of paper. You'll never see something that's actually like white. It's always going to kind of look stone gray. Some browns are going to be thrown in there. If you're using a color e-reader with the light off, it's going to look blue. No e-readers are truly white, but it does look good when it comes to manga and comics, because, well, manga and comics are black and white to begin with, at least Japanese manga. So yeah, it does look good.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for the ideal manga reader, you really want to go with like either like a 10.3 hits the sweet spot. That seems to be like the type of format that manga was designed for.
Right.
So 10.3 inch is almost like it's larger than a 2-page spread of like a manga. So you can usually read manga without needing to pinch and zoom to read word bubbles, or to do this and that. So when we do manga tests, which we do for all of our e-reader reviews, I find that 10.3 inch or above, it really hits that sweet spot, especially like if you're side loading in manga, like a CBR or a
The
CBZ
formats, or
file.
even
Yeah.
PDF. Yeah.
Or you're like downloading a manga app and sort of streaming the manga from the app to your display. So there's sort of two ways to read manga. So the larger display, the better. You don't want to do it on a 6-inch e-reader. 7.8 you can get away with, but most manga you need to like pinch and zoom, or you need like sort of the panel by panel technology, where like you click the screen, you read a panel, you just hit the page button, you read the next panel. So
Right.
larger the better, and so obviously the larger, the more expensive the display is. But
It costs more to manufacture. That's right.
yeah.
Someone said, Queen Cats, who we have, who's been a very long time watcher. That's
Hello,
thank you very
Queen.
much. Yeah. I think one of our guys drove to a place to deliver her a contest win way back when. Yeah, it's very. She hasn't changed her profile picture, so kind of we remember that. Is there a talk? Is there any talk about bringing back the Kobo mini size e-reader with a built-in light? Any company? And I'll let Mike get this, but I had to add something that there was an FCC application, I think you told me, Mike, that Kobo was releasing a new unit, and everyone's like, it's gonna be the Kobo Mini, man. It's gonna be the Kobo Mini. They're bringing it back.
Every
Everyone
year.
thought, and then the Nia came out, and everyone's like, their faces are like, oh, because the
Nia
Nia,
sucks.
it was all right, but like,
No, it sucks.
it didn't do anything, and it
Yeah,
came out,
it's like
and everyone was
worse than the
expecting something
Clara.
good. It
Yeah,
was
it's not even a 300 ppi display. It's like
no,
what,
and
like
it wasn't made in.
167.
It was very, very bargain, and it was very slow, and it was really un-Kobo like, because Kobo's always done very innovative things, you know, keeping up with the trend. This was a step back, and it was not made in their usual place. It was the only Kobo device to not be made in Taiwan, where they usually make everything. It was made in China. So when we arrived, when it got to us and we got the press package, we were like, oh, well, looks all right. And then we opened it up and we're like, oh, it's just a 6-inch, and it was really weird timing. It was a very wrong approach, and all credit to Kobo. Kobo makes some good stuff. This was a rare miss. It really was.
Yeah, I mean, I always hoped that Kobo would release a new mini.
Right.
It's like the pocket friendly size. I mean, most smartphones are 5 inches or above, and those are easy to fit in the pocket. The mini fit in my, like, jeans back pocket fine.
It's the size of a smartphone now.
Yeah.
And actually, if you guys don't know, they already brought back the mini. After it got sold out, they brought it back. They did this huge flash sale where they were selling it for like $19, $29, depending on where you're buying it from. Everyone bought like 6 or 7 of them, and they were sold out like nothing. They were gone.
Yeah.
And then that was the last kind of resurgence of it. We never saw it again. So it's just, we don't know if someone's.
What's funny about the mini is that Kobo supports almost all the e-readers that they ever made whenever they release a firmware update, but it's always like for this, but not the Kobo Mini. So it's like the Kobo Mini is like the only e-reader that they don't even support. So I don't know why. Maybe it's just like they did something with like the software like for that particular model. Because like, I mean, when they released it, like 2012, I think if it came out, 2013, it was like around then. Yeah, it was like a very long time ago. And Kobo actually flew me out to their Toronto event for that, because like they released like the Kobo Mini, the Kobo Touch, the Kobo Arc. Like they announced like 5 or 6 devices, and so yeah, there was like a lot of media sort of there in Toronto and stuff. So that was like kind of a cool memory. They picked me up in the airport in like a limo and stuff, and yeah, I felt like I'd arrived.
I think that was the same time that me and 2 of the guys went down to Santa Clara, California on the same day for the Amazon launch. And that was I don't even know what they were releasing. What were they releasing in the Amazon side? I don't even remember what I filmed.
I think it was like the Paperwhite, I think.
It was the Paperwhite or the Voyage or something like that. It was in that kind of.
I think they announced like numerous devices on that day. I think it was like the Voyage, and I think like the first Fire tablet maybe.
You may have been picked up in a limo. We weren't, but we had this spread of these little tortillas that were cut lengthwise, and they were like, I must have had like 7 of them. I know that's irrelevant, but they were just really good.
But you know what's funny is that I think that was like the last Amazon press event that they've ever had. The one that you went to.
Yeah.
They basically ever since then, they don't have like media unveilings like Apple does. Like, like right. Or like I think Kobo, that event that I went to in Toronto, Kobo had one last event that they had in New York that they also flew me out to. And that was when Michael Servinius was still the CEO of Kobo, like before they got bought out by Rakuten. That was like the last event that they had. And so that's funny about e-readers is that nobody has like unveilings and events anymore where they invite media and stuff like that. It's like they just announce it in a press release, and that's like basically it. And that sort of like sucks because like as a device first comes out, journalists don't really get like a hands-on on it. They don't take pictures of the CEO introducing it. Like, when Apple has big events pre-pandemic, of course, you know, when Tim Cook's on stage, everyone's taking pictures of Tim Cook. And so, when they release like a blog thing, like here, I'm at the Apple event, and they have like pictures and stuff like that. E-readers, I guess, are just not as popular as the iPhone, I guess.
Well, you think everyone's got a Kindle in their back pocket. Didn't you know that, Mike? We got a couple more questions here. We had someone that said, I have an e-reader and the text on the corners are washed out / blurred. What do you think happened? You have to email us, Deckard, because there's not a lot of
Which
info that
e-reader do you have?
yeah, you
Like,
have to
is
let
it
us know.
old? Is it new?
Well, he said there's no light, so it's got to be a couple gens old, so it could just be a failing screen. Is there any firmware update coming for the Onyx Books Note 2? They just
Okay,
released the
so
3,
yeah,
so
you're probably talking about OS 3, which is what shipped in the latest generation of Onyx e-readers that, allow
agreed.
you to do things like split screen for two different apps, so you get two
Right.
apps open at the same time, or two different PDFs, or a ebook and a manga. It's just like there's so many new enhancements with OS 3. Onyx did tell me that by like the end of November, last generations of device, so like Nova 2, Poke 2,
Note 2.
Note 2, Max
I
3.
I think the Max 3 already does split screen and everything, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have
Yeah.
like the two apps at the same time. Like,
No, they do the PDF and Note or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, so I had heard that sometime in November they're gonna do that, but with Onyx, sometimes you never know. Sometimes they say things, but they don't actually get a chance to do it.
They got excuse me. They have a lot on their plate as well. Hold on one moment. I'm choking on the coffee that was supposed to make my throat feel better. Taking me back a step. Someone asked, "Is the Books Note 2 worth getting for the cheaper price?" As Michael just said, if you have the hardware, you don't have to worry about the software. If a company is long-standing, like Onyx, they've been around for 12 years, yes, it would be good because you can get the same device pretty much for a lesser price, have much of the same hardware, and just wait for the upgrade. So if you want to buy the Note 2, is it worth getting? I would say so, yes. And Martian just said hello. So hello there. Someone asked, is there an e-reader with 60 hertz? We currently do not know. I will have to get the team to physically go through some of the e-readers and figure that out. But
Yeah, I mean, you're
yeah,
probably talking about
probably
refresh rate and like
yeah.
e-readers
You're
are
thinking
sort
too
of,
much LCD, LED, like TV screen, cell phone screen
yeah,
wouldn't
like
quite work that way.
120, like
Yeah,
megahertz refresh rate, and like they're like gaming monitors that have like 256 and
right.
stuff. Yeah, e-readers are not the same thing. They have slow
Yeah,
refresh rates, but some companies get around that with like A2
X
mode.
mode,
Or yeah,
X
like
mode. Yeah,
most
no, you're
companies
right.
have
No,
A2
most
mode,
A2
which
mode.
is
Yeah,
like you degrade the image quality at at increasing
yep,
performance. But
that's
and
right.
some companies like Onyx have like five different types of
Yeah,
modes that do different things. So it's just like e-ink is like one of the things that it does not do well is like refresh rate, and that's been
and it was
from
never
day
meant
one.
to. It's never meant to hit 60 or 120 hertz. It's never meant to be able to play your PC games on there at full, you know, no compromise level. That was never the intention with the ink. It was for, like everything Michael mentioned, people with glaucoma, people with eye strain, people that didn't want to read on an iPad for 6 hours straight. They want to read on something that looks like paper, but they don't want to carry an entire bookshelf full of books, so they get an e-reader. That's the primary purpose of an e-reader. You see things like Onyx and they're doing X mode, so you can go on Facebook and watch your videos. That's great. That's just a bonus. That's not the intended purpose of an e-reader, though. So let's get that clear that although Onyx has shifted its promotion into them making tablets with e-ink screens, which is true if you look at the spec sheet, it is still an e-ink reader, kind of first and foremost. Someone said, thanks, Michael and Peter. So gonna give you a little thumbs up here.
Oh yeah.
I'll do a thumbs up. There we go. You can do a smiley face or
Yes,
something like
like one of the things that I think with e-ink is that it's it's like capsules and bubbles and things like that. Let me just
Someone
let me
said e-readers have a static image. If you're meaning that it can sit on a static image for years, you are right. We have unboxed some old stuff that we haven't used in a year,
okay, I'm
and
gonna
it's
show I'm
on.
sorry, I'm gonna show
Oh,
like
okay.
chat something.
Oh, sure.
So as you can see here, it's like positive and negatively charged like bubbles
Yeah.
that appear under this. So it's like a variable filter array. So like positively charged like white, black, sort of a combination of white and black,
Right.
or just like black. So this is sort of like when some e-readers like the Kindle will have like dark mode, where it'll have
Yeah.
like a black background and white text,
Yeah.
or just like black text on like a white background. So this is one of the things that prevent like fast refresh rate, is just like the amount of like bubbles that are able to like float there. So that's sort of how it looks.
Yes, that's very technical, and basically to dumb it down for even myself and a lot of people, it basically e-ink is little particles, and they're either on or off for the most part, or level in between, and they either show or they don't show. So that's how it kind of functions. Someone says, "How come the Dazzling monitors are faster than other regular devices?" They technically aren't. It's just that when Dazzling monitors are usually viewed, they're in the state that most devices can get into now, all the speed modes and A2 modes and X modes. And Dazzling, remember, they only do secondary monitors. So refresh is kind of their bread and butter. Everyone else has it as kind of an option, whereas Dazzling, the company, is secondary monitor, so they need to do it well. That's why they have more time to, they've had more time to refine it. They've had 3 generations of them, and they're actually getting into devices that aren't just secondary monitors, but they will do that in the future.
Yeah, the not an e-reader that they're crowdfunding right now.
Right. Someone asked, is there a dark mode on the book's Note 2 as we have in the Paperwhite? Not system-wide as I know it, but on certain things, yes. So Onyx basically leaves it up to you. You can download any app you want, this app, the Amazon app, the Kindle Reader app, the Kobo app. And if that respective app has a dark mode, then yes, it will do it. But system-wide, not out of the gates, no.
Yeah, there's very few. I think that the companies that do system-wide dark mode are the ones that are running a Linux OS instead of like an Android OS. That's why like Kindle and I think Kobo has like a system-wide dark mode buried somewhere like in the settings that allow you to do that too. So
Right.
whereas Nook doesn't allow you to do that. So it's basically just the Android e-readers, and there's only like I think 2 companies, Kobo and Amazon for sure, that do it.
Yes, yes, yes. Someone said, I ordered a Note 3D, recommend using it with the screen protector. Because it's already a glass screen, the screen protector is not really going to change much. For example, if you had the Sony, which is a very good note-taking feel, then you put a screen protector, it's going to degrade the feel of the note-taking. The note doesn't matter too much.
Yeah, I found that on glass based screens, if you want like a little bit more torque, uh, by writing on a glass based screen, put on a matte screen protector, and it increases like the friction and resistance. So I found that like say with my iPad, there's like a company that actually makes like specialty
I saw that
screens that
recently.
are
It's called
good
the
for.
Paper Feel or whatever.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
made for the Apple iPad Pro and a few specific models, but for my Apple Pencil 2, it's like ideal for that because it actually adds resistance and it just doesn't make you like
Right.
feel like you're writing on glass. But yeah, for me, like I love friction and torque when writing on screens, and
Yeah.
so I always put on matte screen protectors for my own personal use.
Right, right. Someone says, can I use the Note 2 as a secondary monitor? No, you cannot. You
No,
may be able to get around that if there is an app on Google Play that will do some sort of screen share or cast, but no, it is not in its inherent form, in its base form. It is not meant to be used as a secondary monitor. That is what the Max is for. To a lesser extent, you can get a Dazzling, something like that.
yeah.
Justin just says,
One
Mike, that he
second.
has the screen protect. Oh, go ahead.
Onyx, like for OS 3, that's going to be coming to the Note 2. It does have support for screencast, which
That's what.
it'll mirror the display to Windows 10 computers, but
Yeah,
Mac computers aren't supported. So
yeah.
whatever is on your e-paper display could be screencast to your computer display, but because like the Note doesn't actually have a true HDMI, that you can't actually plug it into your computer and use it as a secondary monitor. It's not
No,
possible.
screencast is different. That's right. Screencast is going to your computer screen, but to actually get like a PlayStation or a computer and put it onto your e-reader and look at the e-reader while you're doing that, no, only the Max 3. Justin just says he did get one of those screen protectors like you did, Mike, for your Apple device, and he says it's great. So that's
Awesome.
awesome. Someone's weighed in and said, yeah, the Paper-like is the way to go for dual secondary monitor. You are correct. And someone said, musical score and can a piano or orchestral score? We need to see how clear music notation is. Yes. Um,
That's
devices.
actually a great question because
Yeah.
like there's a number of devices that are geared specifically for musicians
Yes.
with either a single screen or dual screens.
Yeah.
One is the Guido
Yeah.
from
Which is a true dual screen. It's actually hinged, which is why it's so expensive.
yeah. So basically, it comes with a pen, and you can actually make annotations to like sheet music. It actually comes with a sheet music store that you can actually buy it. Downsides, it's like $1,900.
It's good though. We actually they flew out to us in Vancouver and they personally met with us and showed us their unit, and it's super high quality. It's all made in Japan. It's all Wacom. It's all proprietary stuff. It's no white label, nothing. It's a really really good high end developed in house device. So
The
if you're
guy that made it was the
yeah,
guy that created the original Sony digital paper. The
that's right.
same, I forget his name, but
It
I
was
still have his
years
business
back.
card. Yeah,
Right.
but he like the guy that started the Guido is the same guy that in Japan for Sony Japan
Yeah.
actually made the design for the digital paper. So the thing with the Guido is that it has like a hinge, so it opens and
It's
closes.
nice.
Yeah, it's really polished. It's probably the best one out there. Another one is called from a company called Padmu,
Right.
and they both have single screens for like $700-800, and dual screens for like $1,600-1,700, and this is
But
all US.
right. Remember, Padmu doesn't make hardware. They use the Onyx Books Max devices through and through. They actually ship you the Max device as is with a little Ziploc full of the stickers that you put over the Onyx products. This isn't meant to trick anybody. They very well know they're using Max hardware. And you actually put those stickers on various parts of your devices after you buy it. Padmu makes the technology that goes into the devices.
Right, so they have their
Software.
own OS like
Right.
layer to Android, and one of the benefits about that is that you can boot it into Onyx mode, or you
That's
can boot
right.
it into Padmu mode, which basically adds it as like a dedicated sheet music player. Now,
Yeah.
what is a sheet music player without accessories? Well, Guido actually makes like Bluetooth foot pedals,
Right.
like officially supported ones. Padmu also sells them, but
That's
there's no
right.
shortage of Bluetooth foot pedals that you click on and it'll automatically change the pages, because that's what you want to do is like a pianist, or if you play like anything in an orchestra like violin, flute, where like your hands are busy, like
You
if you're
can't be
playing, if you're hitting the gong,
swiping pages.
yeah, if you're hitting the
You
gong,
do it
it's
with your
like you need
elbow.
it with two hands, and so you
The
could like
gong.
yeah, or like if you play the triangle, like ding,
I
ding,
think
or the
I think when
cowbell, like we need more cowbell. It's like doom, doom, doom,
you
doom.
just mentioned the three instruments where if you're in an orchestra, your part is so minuscule that it's like 6 minutes go by and then it's your turn. I think you'd have enough time to turn a page by the time you're gonging it up. But I know what you
Oh
mean.
man, if I was in an orchestra, I would want to be like the loudest guy there. Like,
With your foot pedal
yeah,
playing the
like
gong.
did you ever see like Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom when they were like inside like you know when Indy and like the waiter were there, and like there was a guy there, and the only instrument that like you really ever saw was this huge gong.
Some
Yeah, it was
in big
awesome.
orchestras, man, someone's got to do it. Someone plays the little two pieces of wood that go like click, 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 people do it. So yeah, good question. I don't know where we are now. Someone said, I love my like book Mars. That's great. Someone said,
Yeah, it just the Mars got the 8.1 update
that's
for
right.
Android, and the Aries got it too. And Boyus told us that all of their e-readers will like eventually get that. So
That's right.
uh, you'll go from like Android 6 to Android like 8.1, which
Big
is
jump,
a
which is good.
jump, but it doesn't really add like from everyone that I've talked to that's done it, because it's not just going to settings and clicking on update and it updates. You
Yeah.
actually have to like go through this like huge update process that download bunch of files, run a bunch of
Right.
stuff. Yeah,
Package.
it's a big rigmarole, and that's why like Onyx has been pretty resistive about like upgrading their OS of like prior generation stuff, because to basically run like a total OS update, it's not as easy as just like clicking settings and update. You generally have
Right.
to go through an entire huge process.
A lot more goes into it. Someone said, "Do you think dual screen e-readers are good for daily usage?" Well, sure. If
Which
you have
which dual screen
Well,
readers?
I mean, there, well, like we just said, the Guido or the Padmu. I guess you could buy the Padmu system, which in which case you do get two maxes, and as Michael said, you can boot them up as just maxes. So you
Yeah.
essentially do
Whereas
get. I
the
mean,
Guido is like the only one that opens and closes like a book,
yeah,
other than just some e-ink prototypes that have been released like in the
right.
last like year.
So I mean, if you have the money for it, absolutely, yeah. What do you guys think of MobiScribe? Have you had access to the MobiScribe
Yeah,
Origin?
we reviewed
Yes,
it.
we reviewed it. MobiScribe
The
uses
6.8.
right. They use the same company as Netronics, which made the first Sony DPT S1, and they made a bunch of other devices. So, yeah, MobiScribe, nothing special, just a note-taking device. Nothing particularly stands out about it. No.
Yeah, I
Uh,
thought it sucked personally.
I wouldn't be so candid to say that, but
Yeah,
it's
I mean it was slow and
it's just all
sluggish.
right.
Like it had like what, like a single core processor, 512 MB of RAM, not a whole lot of internal storage. I didn't even think it had like an SD card. It was just like it was super limiting. Like it basically you can take notes and you can read ebooks. You can't really do anything else. And
That was
navigating to
it.
like settings and menus was just like tedious and plodding.
That is all the questions we have, and we have done our flash contest and covered a bunch of topics here. So I think, unless you have anything else to wrap up with, Mike, I think we're pretty much all good.
Well, as you guys can see, this is our first official YouTube live like show.
Yes.
The format
Hello,
may
Luis.
change, like, but generally, like every week at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, we'll be here every Saturday on YouTube Live. So we have like talking points. We'll be answering your questions for like the remainder of like the show, but we're monitoring them throughout the like the show. If there's anything that people comment on live as we're talking about discussionary things. Next week, one of the main talking points is going to be the rise of distraction free note-taking devices such as the Remarkable 2, the Free Write
The free write, the
Traveler,
Kaite,
the Kaite. Yeah,
there's a
it's
lot of
just like
stuff.
the rise of distraction free as a marketing tool, whereas before, a lot of devices were just distraction free by normal. No social media pop-ups, no
Right.
emails, no notifications, no good reads, nothing like that. It's just, so that's one of the main stories we're going to focus on, but we'll also talk about some of the news that have come out over the course of like this next week to
That's
come.
right.
So yeah,
And
join in on the fun. We hope you had like a fun time listening to us chat about the e-reader industry. This live stream that you've been watching will be available as a VOD, so you'll be able to watch the entire stream on demand. We'll do our best to timestamp it, so you'll be able to like listen to our major segments. So you'll be able to fast forward or rewind to key talking points throughout the show. We'll add that a little bit later on, but we've hopefully that you've enjoyed listening to us talking about the e-reader industry, often a very overlooked segment in general. If you look at e-readers just online, when people do top 5 lists or top 10 lists, it's just basically Kobos and Kindles, but
that's
there's
what
so
most
much.
people know, but there's so
Yeah.
much more out there.
Yeah, so
Much more
that's
out
why
there.
you're watching this show, because you're interested in e-readers, both from the major brands, the minor brands, and even some small startups. So we've had fun talking to you about it, and we'll continue to have fun talking to you about it every Saturday.
That's right. And we'll do our best to dedicate at least half the show, as we did today, to all of the comments, because the comments and questions are just still coming in right now. We're sorry we can't get to all of them, but we have sent our contact information in the comment stream numerous times. If you guys feel you want to ask anything, you can always comment, send us an email, sorry, and we'll do our best to answer it.
Yeah, and if you want your answer like a label like answered right away, we do have like paid sort of like things that you can do where your paid question will be like highlighted, and we'll get like a little notification that you do
That's
it.
right.
You can, I think, like as little as like $1, and however much more, just like changes like the colors. So if you have like a burning question, you can do that. We also have a Goody Reader subscription program that's like on the bottom. Basically that allows you to support what we do here on YouTube, helps finance some of the reviews samples that we get, because as you know, we review literally every single e-ink product
You
that
get a
comes
lot of
out, from like
stuff.
hygrometers to like smart home accessories to sheet music readers to like every, if it's
That's
e-ink,
right.
we're reviewing it. And
And
some,
yep,
if it's not e-ink but it's like similar type of tech like the RLCD, TCL Next paper, we talk about all this type of stuff. We're just not obsessed with e-ink, but they're generally making the best stuff for here
that
on in.
that's right. And we give away a lot of stuff. We get a lot of samples, and once we're done with them, we give them away. We do contests constantly, and every Saturday or every day that we do the Good Reader live show, we will do some more flash sales. They could be everything from USB cables or even devices at times. So you do have to stay tuned. And we decided that get things kicked off with a case, but the prizes could gain traction and get bigger and bigger the more we do this. So
Right. And for the contest that we run on our YouTube channel, we'll actually announce the winners on our live stream. So if you have entered our latest contest for like the Kindle Oasis, in a
yes,
couple weeks, we will be announcing the winner live on stream. So if you want to see if you are a winner, you should watch our live stream in order to
that's
find
right.
out if it was you. So
You got it.
that way people know who won and who didn't, and there's more transparency with our contests rather than just like writing in the description that this person has won.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, everyone, thanks for watching. We're going to wrap it up for now. For goodyreader.com, my name is Michael.